For my 40th birthday, my friends got me a bungee jump. Forest Hill Bridge, tallest one in California, 730 feet of open air. A gift, they said. Ron, of course, was behind it. He always was, ever since high school. Come on, man! I want to shake your soul a little. Feel something again. He was the kind of guy who lived on cliffs and motorcycles, the kind who believed in doing dumb crap to prove he was still alive. I hated it. I'm not built for this kind of thrill. I like control. I like seatbelts, knowing what happens next. Bungee jumping? That's the exact opposite of my life philosophy. But I said yes anyway. Partly because it was a gift, partly because I didn't want to hear them call me boring. Mostly because maybe I was a little tired of feeling so safe all the time. We got to the bridge, harnesses and helmets, and too many strangers and GoPros. And the moment I saw that drop, those trees far, far below, I felt my stomach twist. This was insane. I was insane. What the hell was I doing up here? I stepped back from the edge, hands on my knees, trying to breathe. And that's when I noticed her. She was maybe 30, tall, fit, her ponytail swinging as she moved. Chestnut hair, tanned skin, the kind of look that belonged in a hiking ad. She was standing near the edge, stretching her arms like this was a morning jog, not a last wish. She turned her head, caught me watching her, smiled. "First time?" she asked. Her voice was low, easy, confident. I nodded. "Is it that obvious?" "Kinda," she grinned. "Don't sweat it. I've jumped here 3 times. Today's number 4. I blinked. 4? Why? She shrugged. "Because it reminds me I'm still alive." Then she held out her hand like we were on a date, not a ledge. "Audrey!" "Luke." I shook her hand. Hers was warm, dry, like she wasn't nervous at all. There was something about her, something solid. She wasn't just fearless, she was grounded. And looking into those golden brown eyes, I knew I couldn't back out now. I could take the jump. That's when Ron showed up, like a damn freight train. "Yo, you're up!" He shoved his phone in my face. "Can't wait to film you screaming like a baby all the way down!" Audrey gave him a look. "You jumping too?" Ron smirked. "Nah, I'm emotional support. Brought spare underwear for this guy." She laughed. "Good luck, Luke." Then she gripped my hand one more time and walked to the edge. Gone. No hesitation. Ron elbowed me. "Who's the smoke show?" "If I make it through this," I said, "I'm punching you in the throat." And then it was my turn. No backing out, not anymore. They checked the harness, said I was good. I didn't say anything. I stepped forward, took a breath, and jumped. The world vanished. It wasn't falling, it was dropping through the sky. Like the air got ripped out of the universe. My brain shut off. My body panicked. Wind slammed into my face, heart somewhere in my throat, and just when I thought I might black out, it flipped. I was flying, like really flying. No fear, just the craziest, purest, loudest silence I've ever known. Then, snap. The cord caught. My legs shot up, my spine compressed, and I laughed. I actually laughed. Hanging there, heart pounding, swinging like a rag doll over the trees. I realized I was still alive, and grinning like a lunatic. When my feet finally hit solid ground, I felt like the luckiest dude alive. First of all, I didn't crap myself. That alone felt like a win. Second, man, I don't even know how to explain it. I felt like I could do anything, like the version of me from 20 minutes ago was some accountant in a cubicle, and this new me, this guy could bench press a truck and ask out Fiancée. And then, there she was, Audrey, walking toward me with that same relaxed smile, hands in her jacket pockets, like she hadn't just yeeted herself off a bridge and made it look hot. "Did you like it?" she asked. I was still grinning like a fool. Couldn't stop. "Yeah," I said. That was unreal. And then I thought, screw it. The old me would have waited, would have overthought it, played it safe, but not today. "Dinner tonight?" I asked. It came out fast, no prep, just right from the gut. She tilted her head, studying me for a second, like she was reading something only she could see. Then she unzipped her jacket, reached into the inside pocket, pulled out a card. Slick black, simple font, just her name and a number. She handed it to me. "See you tonight," she said, with a smile that didn't just promise dinner. It whispered breakfast, too. She'd barely walked 5 steps when Ron came charging in like a kid after recess. "Dude, that was epic! I got the whole thing, bro!" He slapped my back hard enough to rattle my lungs. "I mean, you screamed like a little girl on the way down, but in, like, a cool way." I didn't even look at him. I was still staring after Audrey, that card burning in my fingers. How was it? He asked. Like, really? I finally turned to him. Couldn't stop smiling. It was amazing. I meant the jump, mostly. But my eyes were still locked on Audrey's back as she walked away, ponytail bouncing, jacket catching the sun. And I think, I added half to myself, I just leveled up. I picked small, warm place on a quiet corner downtown. Candlelit tables, soft jazz humming in the background, and just enough privacy to feel like the rest of the world didn't exist. At 9 p.m. sharp, she walked in, and I forgot how to breathe. Her dress hugged every curve like it had been stitched onto her body. Black, simple, deadly, heels just high enough, hair tied up, a few strands loose, lipstick a shade too bold for casual, and that made it even hotter. She spotted me immediately, and when she smiled, I knew I was toast. Hey, she said, sliding into the seat across from me like she'd done it 100 times. Like this wasn't our first real date after meeting on the edge of a damn bridge. Hey, I managed, and offered a glass of wine. Conversation flowed from the start. We talked about work, places we'd traveled, weird hobbies we never expected to enjoy. I told her I hated camping. She laughed. Told me she once broke her toe climbing a volcano barefoot. I told her I liked spreadsheets. She didn't even flinch. Everything about her was quick, electric, like she was tuned into something I'd never felt before. And, God, those eyes. Every time she looked at me like that, I felt like a spark plug about to blow. Halfway through her salmon and my steak, she leaned in, rested her chin on her hand. You're not what I expected. What did you expect? Honestly, she said. Someone more scared. Then she smiled again. But I like this version better. Before I could think of a response, she stood up. I'll be right back. She walked toward the hallway with that same quiet confidence, hips swaying just enough to make my brain short-circuit. I followed the lines of her body like I was tracing them in my head. Couldn't look away. Then she turned, caught me staring. I froze. She didn't roll her eyes, didn't smirk. She smiled and gave me a tiny, unmistakable nod toward the hallway. My pulse jumped. 15 seconds, maybe 20. I don't even know. Then I stood. Tried to act casual, walked slow, every step louder than the last. The hallway was narrow, dim, just 2 restrooms at the end. The door to the women's room was open just a crack. Then it opened wider. She was there, waiting. Didn't say a word, just reached, grabbed my collar, pulled me in. The lock clicked behind me, and I was gone. We hit the wall hard, mouths crashing, hands pulling, bodies hungry. No thought, just heat. She shoved my jacket off. I pressed her back against the stall, her hands under my shirt, mine under her dress. I didn't care where we were. Didn't care who might walk in. It felt wild, stupid, wrong in the best way. She was fire in my hands, fast and soft and in control all at once. She bit my shoulder. I groaned. The walls were shaking, or maybe it was just me. She whispered things in my ear I don't even remember. All I knew was I never wanted her to stop. When we were done, we stayed close. Her breathing slowed first. Mine took longer. She fixed her hair in the mirror, tossed me a look. Well, mister. Spreadsheets, she said, touching her lip. Not bad for a guy who flinched at the edge of a bridge. I laughed. She opened the door and slipped out first. We slid back into our seats like nothing happened, except everything had. My face was hot. My shirt was wrinkled. I was 99% sure my hair looked like I'd been electrocuted. I tried to act normal, pick up my fork, take a sip of wine, smile casually, but I could feel it, the aftershock. Like my body was still catching up to what just happened in that tiny restroom stall. Audrey, on the other hand, calm, composed, like she just touched up her lipstick and floated back to the table without missing a beat. Crap, I muttered. That was... She tilted her head, smiling like a fox. Hot? Wild? She winked. I liked it too. Then she leaned back in her chair like she owned the whole damn room. Dessert? I didn't even know what to say. I think I nodded, or mumbled something. I was still trying to remember how words worked. Eventually, we made it out of the restaurant. She called a cab. I got in with her. We didn't say much on the way to her place, just sat close. Our knees touched. Her hand brushed mine once, soft and slow. When we pulled up, I didn't want to get out. Didn't want her to get out either. "This is me," she said quietly. "Yeah." I stared at her front door like it was some border I wasn't allowed to cross. She turned toward me, eyes soft now. Less fire, more something else. Something warmer. "I had a really good night," she said. I swallowed. "Me too." Then I said it before I could second-guess myself. "I don't really want to say goodnight." She smiled. But this time, it was different. Not teasing, not seductive, just kind. "I know," she said. Then she leaned in and kissed me again. Slower, deeper, more like a promise than a rush. When she pulled back, I was already missing her. "I'll call you," she said, and just like that, she was gone. I sat in the cab for a full minute after she closed the door, watching the porch light flick off. My heart was still thudding. I was falling. Everything moved fast with Audrey, too fast maybe. But with her, I felt 20 again. Restless, wired, hungry for something more. She never let things go quiet. If we had a free afternoon, she'd show up in my driveway, tossing me a helmet. "Come on," she'd say. "We're going for a ride." "I've got work," I'd mumble, checking my watch. Yeah, she'd grin. "Work'll still be there. But this view," she'd nod toward the open road. "This sky, it's right now." Half an hour later, we'd be speeding down the highway, her laughter flying behind us like a banner. No plan, no map, just adrenaline and instinct. She pushed me, and I kind of loved it. Once, we were at a late-night outdoor movie, curled up in the back of my car. Halfway through the film, she leaned in, lips brushing my ear. "Let's sneak into the pool," she whispered. "It's a hotel pool," I said. "There are cameras and security." She pulled back, raised an eyebrow. "So?" I hesitated. She smirked. "Tell you what, if we don't get caught, you owe me a massage. If we do..." She leaned closer, lowering her voice to a whisper. "You'll probably enjoy the chase." 10 minutes later, we were in the water, barely clothed, her laughter echoing across the tiles. I never even saw a security guard. And yeah, I gave her that massage. That was Audrey. Chaos wrapped in charm. Trouble in the best kind of packaging. She made me feel alive in ways I'd forgotten. And I started thinking, maybe this was it. So one night, over dinner in my place, I brought it up. Nervous, like some teenager. "I want you to meet my parents." She paused, fork halfway to her mouth. Studied me. "Your parents?" "Yeah, I think they'd really like you." She set her fork down, smiled, softly this time. "You think I meet the parents material?" "I know you are." She got quiet for a second, then nodded. "All right," she said. And just like that, I was all in. We pulled up to my parents' place just before 2. A 2-story house with white siding and a porch swing tucked behind a row of tall pines. My childhood home. Audrey killed the engine and turned to me with a crooked smile. "You nervous?" she asked. "Me? No, should I be?" She grinned. "You tell me." Then she leaned in and kissed me like she wasn't about to meet my entire family. Inside, the smell of roasted chicken and rosemary hit us the moment we stepped through the door. My mom believed in cooking from scratch. Sundays meant real meals, cloth napkins, wine glasses, the whole thing. Dad greeted us first, arms wide, voice booming. "This her?" he said. "The bungee girl?" Audrey laughed and shook his hand. "Guilty." "You got guts, I'll give you that," he said. "You know I used to jump out of planes back in the day." "No way," she beamed. "Skydiving?" 24 times. Military and post. "You ever jump tandem?" "Twice," she said. "Loved it. Thinking of going solo next time." They were off. Talking gear, altitudes, wind resistance. My dad looked 20 years younger just hearing her talk. Meanwhile, my mom stood in the doorway to the dining room, arms crossed, eyes cool. She gave Audrey a once-over. Not rude, but definitely not warm. We all sat down around the table, napkins in laps, glasses filled. "So, Audrey," my mom said, cutting into the silence, "what do you do?" "I run a small aerial fitness studio, silks, rings, conditioning, that kind of thing." My mom blinked once. "Like, for the circus?" Audrey smiled politely. "Kind of, but it's more fitness-based. A lot of women train for strength and balance. It's become a whole movement." "Interesting," my mom said, which in her language meant I don't get it, and I don't care to. My dad jumped in. "You'll have to show me sometime. My knees are garbage, but I bet I could still climb something." Audrey laughed. "I'll bring the crash mats." I watched all of it from the corner of the table. My dad, fully sold. He was glowing. My mom, watching, judging, not buying it. She barely touched her food, asked polite questions, but her tone stayed flat. And when Audrey stepped outside to take a call from her studio manager, my mom didn't wait 5 seconds. "She's not for you, Luke." I blinked. "What?" "You need someone stable." "She's passionate," I said. "She's driven." "She's reckless," she countered. "And you don't even see it." I looked out the window. Audrey was pacing by the mailbox, phone to her ear, hand in her hair, laughing. "I love her," I said quietly. My mom didn't reply, just picked up her wine glass and stared into it like it held answers. That night, back at my place, I lay awake. I kept thinking about the way Audrey made my dad laugh like a teenager, the way she fit into my arms so naturally. But my mom's words stayed in the back of my head, circling. Still, 3 months later, I had no doubts, not even a little. I bought the ring, planned the proposal, and yeah, it had to be extreme. We were ziplining through the Rockies, wind screaming in our ears, sun dropping behind the peaks. Halfway across the final line, I stopped, hung there like an idiot, swaying midair. Audrey flew up behind me, yelling, "What the hell are you doing?" I pulled the ring from the pouch on my harness and held it out. She stared, eyes wide. "Are you serious?" "I am if you say yes." She laughed, shouted over the wind, "Hell yes!" And we finished the ride screaming, laughing, engaged. The wedding was perfect. Mountains in the distance, string lights overhead, Audrey in white, barefoot on the grass, hair dancing in the wind like something out of a movie. We laughed through the vows. She grinned when I said, "Hell yes," instead of "I do." By the time it was my turn to give a toast, I was buzzing on champagne and adrenaline. I stood, tapped my glass, and looked out at the people who somehow still loved me after 4 decades of my life being exactly not like this. "I want to thank the guy who kicked me off a bridge," I said. Everyone laughed. Ron whistled and raised his beer. "That bungee jump? Changed everything, scared the crap out of me. But without it, I wouldn't have met this woman right here. The one who's made me feel more alive in the last 6 months than I have in 40 years combined." More cheers, more laughter. Audrey leaned over and kissed me mid-toast. "Here's to risk," I finished. "And to all the crazy friends who won't let you play it safe." Glasses clinked. Applause. Even a standing ovation from my dad. But not from her, my mom. She sat still, hands in her lap, eyes on her wine. Her lips never moved, no smile, no clap, no expression. And sometime between the first dance and the cake, she disappeared. No goodbyes, no note. Just gone. At the time, I told myself she was tired, that it had been a long day. She's not one for parties anyway. That's what I told myself. But the truth came later. Too late, really. Things didn't fall apart all at once. It started small. Audrey had a fire that never went out. What lit me up in the beginning, that wild, fearless, adrenaline-hunting energy, eventually started burning holes in my peace. She was always chasing the next thrill. On a random Wednesday, she was already bouncing around the kitchen, downing a protein shake. "Next weekend, Vegas," she said. "There's a coaster on top of a hotel. Drop straight down. You in?" I looked at her, looked at the floor. "Maybe we just stay in," I said. She blinked. "Stay in?" Like I'd suggested burying ourselves alive. "What's going on with you, Luke?" "Nothing. I need quiet. I need still for a bit." She stared at me, then walked off. That's not who I married. But Brandon, my dad, he loved it. "She's fire, son," he'd say. "You think your old man's too tired for this stuff? Hell no. She's got me moving again." They became a team, sometimes running trails at dawn, climbing walls, flying drones. Then again, she was happy. And when she was happy, things were good between us again. The closeness slowed down, got deeper. She'd curl into me after, calm and warm. And for a moment, I'd believe this was working, until it wasn't. Like the afternoon we were shopping in the mall elevator, just the two of us. She leaned in, lips brushing my ear. "Let's do something bad," she whispered. My stomach tightened. "There are cameras. So? There are kids. People. Come on." She stepped back, eyes narrowing. "You're being boring. And you're being relentless." We didn't say much after that. We finished shopping in silence. And even though we still smiled sometimes and still had nights where everything felt good, I could feel it. Something was cracking, and I wasn't sure how long I could keep taping it together. And then Audrey got pregnant. I thought it would settle her. Thought the chaos would slow. That the kicks and cravings and planning would finally anchor her to something steady. I was wrong. First came the rage over morning sickness. She'd hurl into the sink and then turn to me, eyes wild. "This is hell! Literal hell!" Then the doctor's orders. No climbing, no diving, no sudden movements. "No risk, no fun," she muttered after every appointment. By month 6, her ankles were swollen, her back hurt, her center of gravity had shifted, and she hated every second of it. "This body isn't mine anymore," she snapped one night, throwing her leggings across the room. "I feel like a damn balloon with feet." I tried. I cooked, rubbed her feet, held her hair when she puked, downloaded every baby app that existed. And still, I couldn't reach her. Nothing was enough. She was restless, miserable, trapped in a role she never signed up for, even if she'd said yes to it. It was 9 months of emotional whiplash. Some nights she'd cry in bed and whisper, "I don't think I can do this." Others, she'd demand we move to Costa Rica to raise the kid wild and barefoot. I kept thinking the storm would pass, that when the baby came, she'd change, she'd soften. But those 9 months? God, that wasn't pregnancy, that was survival. And then came summer. Our little girl, 5 pounds, 10 ounces of pink cheeks, soft cries, and tiny fingers that wrapped around my thumb like I was her whole world. And just like that, I finally understood what people meant when they said, "Your life changes." Because it did. In the best possible way, I did everything. Diapers, bottles, lullabies. Audrey? She helped when she felt like it. But most nights, I was the one on diaper duty, rocking her back to sleep at 3 a.m. And weirdly, I loved it. "Daddy tired," I whispered one night, pacing the hallway, half asleep. She blinked up at me, gurgled, then grabbed my nose like it was a toy. "Okay," I sighed, grinning. 5 more laps, but only because you're cute." By the time she turned 3, I'd signed her up for swim classes. She was afraid at first, clinging to my neck like I was a life raft. "I don't want a daddy," she said, lower lip trembling. "I know, baby," I told her. "But guess what?" "What?" "I was scared too. First time I jumped into water, I screamed like a goat." She blinked. "Like a goat?" I nodded solemnly. "A screaming goat!" She laughed. Just like that, she let go. Later, it was ballet, tiny slippers, pink tights, a tutu the size of a frisbee. Her first recital. She froze on stage. Eyes huge, arms stiff, bottom lip wobbling. I was in the front row, heartbreaking, so I did what any dad would do. I stood up, walked right up the side steps, and stepped onto the stage. The crowd murmured. A few people chuckled, but Summer saw me and beamed. I whispered, "Ready?" She nodded, wiped her nose with her sleeve. We did the whole routine together, me in jeans and a t-shirt, clumsily pirouetting beside her while she danced her heart out. Somewhere in the back, I heard Ron's voice. "Bro, you're gonna break the internet with this!" I looked out, and yep, there he was, holding his phone up, recording the whole thing like a proud idiot. "I swear, Luke, this is going viral." I just smiled. Let him film. Because in that moment, twirling around under the stage lights, my daughter laughing beside me, nothing else mattered. Audrey wasn't the kind of mom who baked cookies or sang lullabies. 6 weeks after giving birth, she was back at the climbing gym. 3 months in, she signed up for an advanced canyoning course. "Your body just made a human," I said once, watching her stuff ropes into a bag. "Maybe ease into it?" She rolled her eyes. "My body needs me back. Not diapers and lullabies. I'm not built for couch life, Luke." And sure, she loved Summer. In her own way, she'd hold her, kiss her forehead, take cute photos for Instagram. But when it came to the daily grind, the late-night feedings, the tantrums, the routines, that was mostly me. I didn't resent it. I wanted to be there, because something shifted when I became a dad. I started thinking ahead, about safety, about consequences. I stopped speeding on highways. I checked the batteries and the smoke detectors. I wanted to live. And Audrey still wanted to fly. That was the gap. And our bed turned into a battlefield. She'd wait until Summer was finally down, the house quiet. Then she'd appear in the hallway wearing nothing but a harness belt or some ridiculous costume she found online. "Let's do it on the balcony," she whispered one night. Doors open, no lights. We might get caught. I hesitated, thought about our sleeping daughter, the baby monitor still blinking. Not tonight. She pulled back like I'd slapped her. Not tonight, she repeated. I sighed. I'm tired. I've been up since 5. You used to love this. What happened to you? I became a father. She stared at me, jaw tight. Well, I didn't sign up to be a nun. And just like that, we were fighting again. Small words at first, then louder ones, until we were both standing in the kitchen, voices sharp, our daughter crying in the next room. We were 2 people on different cliffs, tied together by a fraying rope, and neither of us wanted to admit how close we were to the fall. And then Summer got sick. She was 5. It started with bruises on her legs and arms, strange ones, in places that didn't make sense. No falls, no roughhousing, just there. Then came the nosebleeds, first in the car, then in her sleep. Audrey panicked, rushed around, trying to pack a bag. I scooped Summer up, still in her pajamas, and drove straight to the hospital. They admitted her almost immediately, ran tests, hooked up fluids. I sat next to her in that 2-big bed, watching her chest rise and fall, a stuffed giraffe clutched in her arms. Her tiny hand had a needle taped in, and she flinched every time it moved. It broke me. Seeing her like that, pale, fragile, quiet, was a kind of helpless I'd never known before. The doctors mentioned something autoimmune. We're not jumping to conclusions yet, they said, but we're checking for a range of things. Her immune system may be misfiring. They needed blood samples from both parents. Just standard protocol in pediatric cases like this. A day passed, then another. On the 3rd morning, a doctor I hadn't seen before came in and asked, Mr. Grant, could I speak with you privately for a moment? Not. You both. Just me. And my heart dropped. He took me to a small consultation room. Bright walls, a plant in the corner, fake peace. He sat across from me and folded his hands. You understand, he began carefully, that part of our protocol involves full blood paneling, including Rh factors for a number of medical reasons. Yeah, I nodded. Sure. You and your wife, he said slowly, both have Rh-negative blood types. I blinked. Okay. Your daughter's Rh factor is positive. Silence. I didn't move, didn't even understand at first. So? He exhaled. Chose his next words with surgical precision. That combination is extremely uncommon, not genetically probable in most cases. There are exceptions, but it's rare enough that we recommend clarity. Clarity? I asked, my voice sharp now. He paused. I suggest you take a paternity test. And just like that, the floor dropped out. The room spun. My stomach tightened. My vision narrowed. Summer, not mine, Audrey. Had she... How long? With who? I stood up but had to grip the edge of the table. The rage was still somewhere behind the shock. Back in the hospital room, my daughter slept peacefully, my whole world wrapped in a cartoon blanket, and I was standing there, not knowing if she was really mine, or if the woman I married had been lying since the beginning. I stepped outside. The air was cold and sharp, like it knew something I didn't. I leaned against the side of the building, ran a hand over my face, tried to breathe. Then my phone buzzed. Audrey, I answered. Where are you? She asked, voice tight. Outside the hospital, I said. We need to talk, now. A pause. What's wrong? Later, I said. Just come. I hung up, slipped the phone into my pocket, stared out at the parking lot, rows of cars under harsh lighting. Everything suddenly felt too loud. The hum of the air vents, the clicking of someone's heels, the world still spinning when mine had stopped. I needed to think, to plan. I couldn't just scream it at her. She was too good at dodging, too fast with the deflection, the laughs, the seduction when cornered. This needed to be surgical, controlled. She'd lie. I knew she would, but I'd be ready. No room to run. No smart little twist she could talk her way out of. She was going to tell me the truth. By the time Audrey pulled up, I'd already changed my plan. No confrontation, not yet. Asking her straight out, did you cheat? Is Summer even mine? It wouldn't get me anywhere. She'd cry, get defensive, flip it, turn it into me being insecure, paranoid, exhausted. No, I needed her off balance. So I came up with something else. Her boots clicked across the sidewalk, hair pulled back, sunglasses still on despite the hour. She looked like someone arriving at brunch. not to face the man whose heart she might have just detonated. "Hey," she said, brushing hair from her face. "Oh, what's going on? You sounded off." I nodded. Didn't hug her, didn't touch her, just looked, measured. "I didn't want to say anything over the phone," I began. "Not with Summer upstairs." Her eyebrows lifted. "Is she okay?" "She's stable. They're still running tests." I let the pause hang there. Just long enough. She shifted her weight, crossed her arms. "And what's wrong?" "There's a new specialist on her case," I said. It says recovery improves significantly when the mother's involved. Consistently, present in person, daily, because he mentioned they're tracking emotional response. Things like heart rate stabilization, cortisol dips. "Says maternal proximity has measurable effects," she nodded. "Sure, I can come more often, that's all?" "Yes." "God, you scared me. I thought something happened. You couldn't say this over the phone?" She got annoyed. "I'm going to see Summer," she snapped, and turned toward the hospital entrance. I watched her walk away, and for the first time, not with admiration, but with disgust. I took the DNA test quietly. I didn't sleep the night before the results. Didn't eat much the day before that either. I kept telling myself it was just a formality, a crazy coincidence, a fluke in the blood work, but something in me already knew. I was quieter around Summer, not colder, just cautious. Every time she said daddy, I felt it echo too loud in my ears. I still kissed her goodnight, still tucked her in, but afterward, I'd stand in the hallway staring at the baby monitor, hands clenched. By the time I got the message, "Your DNA results are available," I was shaking. I opened it in the parking lot, engine running. My thumb hovered over the screen like it weighed 100 pounds. And then, DNA match, 25%. I wasn't the father. I was related. I gripped the steering wheel, stared through the windshield like it could explain something. The hospital called me in. Same hallway, same room, different man walking in. The doctor spoke gently, too gently. Every word was a nail in the floor beneath me. "You're biologically related," he said, "but you're not the father." Silence. I shook my head. "I don't have a brother, no uncle. My grandfather died when I was a kid." "There's only one option left," I said quietly. "My father." He didn't answer, didn't need to. Everything in my head broke loose at once. Images I never asked for, voices overlapping, pieces of memories that suddenly felt different. Her hand on his shoulder, their inside jokes. That time they were gone longer than they should have been. And Summer, my daughter, my sister, I almost passed out. My whole body was ice. I kept hearing my own breath, louder than the doctor's voice. This is insane. This is some sick soap opera. Except it's my life, and I had no idea what the hell to do next. I turned off my phone and drove. No destination, just road. The trees blurred past me until they swallowed everything. Buildings, signs, voices. Somewhere deep in the woods, I parked, got out, and I screamed. Not just once, again and again, into the silence, into the sky until my throat burned raw. I punched the steering wheel, slammed my fists into the dirt, cried so hard I couldn't see. Rage, shame, loss, all of it pouring out of me like poison. I paced, roared, fell to my knees. Everything I'd buried, the betrayal, the image of Audrey and my father, the test, the look in Summer's eyes, it tore through me like glass. 3 hours later, I was back in the car, breathing steady, hands still. And for the first time in days, my mind was quiet, cold, focused. I knew exactly what needed to happen. First, I never wanted to see Audrey or my father again. Not in this life or any other. They were done. Divorce was coming, full cut. No visits, no second chances. Second, Summer stays with me. I don't care what the paperwork says. She's mine, and I will never give her up. But to make that stick, I needed proof. Solid, legal, brutal. And I knew exactly who I had to talk to first. I drove straight to my mom's. Didn't call ahead. Didn't even know what I was going to say until I was already on her porch. She opened the door, saw my face, and didn't ask any questions. Just stepped aside and let me in. We sat at the kitchen table, the same one I'd eaten breakfast at every morning as a kid. Same window, same quiet. I looked at her for a long time. Then I asked, plain and direct, "Did you know Dad cheated?" She didn't move for a few seconds. Her hands rested on a coffee mug she hadn't touched. "That's a heavy way to start a conversation," she said quietly. "I need to know," I said. Just tell me. She exhaled through her nose, looked down. Yes. How long? Always. That one word hit harder than I expected. He had women, she said, eyes still lowered. Some for a weekend, some for a few months. Most of them came and went like nothing. I pretended not to see it. And you just lived with that? She shrugged, a small, tired movement. I had you. That was enough. I sat back. My chest felt tight. But there was one, she said. One that didn't go away. I knew who she meant before I said it. Audrey. She looked at me then, really looked, and nodded. They met 8 years ago during one of those whitewater rafting trips. The adrenaline hophead crap he loved so much. It was long before you met her. I gave him a choice. End it or I would ruin everything. Publicly. He swore he ended it. Maybe he did. Maybe not. She became my wife. I know. Why didn't you tell me? I tried, she said. Her voice cracked. Just a little. But you were so in love. You wouldn't hear a word against her. You just smiled every time she walked in the room. What was I supposed to do? Tear you down? I swallowed. Couldn't look at her anymore. Silence filled the kitchen. All I could hear was the faint ticking of the old wall clock and the sound of something breaking inside me, one piece at a time. I hadn't planned to tell her, not that part, but after everything she'd just said, I couldn't keep it in. There's more, I said. She looked up. Summer, she's not mine. She blinked. What do you mean? She's Dad's. My voice broke on the last word. It was like I'd slapped her. Her lips parted slightly, but no sound came out. Then her face went pale. Her shoulders slumped. I caught her before she slid from the chair. Hey, it's okay, I said, guiding her gently to the couch. I brought her valerian from the cabinet, sat beside her until her breathing slowed. Her hand trembled in mine. When she finally spoke, her voice was hoarse. I stayed with him for you, all those years. And he... She stopped. Couldn't finish. I'm gonna make them pay, I said. For me. And for you. She turned her head toward me, eyes raw. I kept everything, she whispered. What? All these years, I saved things. Receipts, photos, hotel bills, names. I thought that maybe one day I'd have the strength to end it. She got up, opened a cabinet in the hallway, the one she always kept locked, and handed me a file box. Faded, heavy. Maybe she's in there. Audrey, I never looked too close. I couldn't. I took it. At the door, I stopped. Doesn't it seem strange, I asked quietly, that I even met her? My mom frowned. I mean, what are the odds that I'd randomly meet my father's mistress and marry her? Who introduced you to? She asked slowly. No one. We met at Forest Hill Bridge, right before a bungee jump. I paused. Something clicked. Ron and the guys gave me that jump for my birthday. My stomach turned. My voice dropped. Ron. I stepped outside and pulled out my phone with frozen fingers. Found his number. Called. He picked up after the second ring. We need to talk, I said. Now. We met at the Hollow, our bar. The one with the sticky floors, cracked leather booths, and that jukebox that always played classic rock 5 cents off key. This was where we threw my bachelor party, where we watched the Super Bowl year after year, half yelling over wings and spilled beer, where I poured whiskey down Ron's throat after his wife left him and he cried for 3 hours without blinking. It was our place, our little pocket of time. And now it felt like I was walking into a church before a funeral. Ron was already at our usual booth in the back, 2 beers on the table, one for each of us. He stood up when he saw me, pulled me into a quick hug. His voice was low when he said, You all right? I sat, took a breath. We talked for a minute about nothing. Work, traffic, the usual distractions. Then I told him why I called. He listened, every word, no interruptions. Just a slow shift in his face, from concern to disbelief to something closer to nausea. When I finished, he rubbed both hands over his face and leaned back. Jesus, man. Yeah. So, your dad was with her? I nodded. Before me. While married to my mom. He stared at the table. But then they broke up? She forced him to end it. My mom. But he still wanted her close, so he handed her to me, like a souvenir. Ron didn't speak. I added. She agreed. She played along. They both did. He winced. That's messed up. It's disgusting. He shook his head, jaw tight. Luke, it was your father's idea. The bungee jump gift. I didn't know about any of it, I swear. I believe you. He looked up at me, eyes wet. Not from tears, from rage. I feel like I helped them. Like I handed her to you myself. You didn't know, man, I said. You were just trying to do something good. He nodded, but his mouth stayed clenched. The guilt didn't move. Then he said it, no hesitation. If you need help getting back at them, say the word. I'm in, whatever you need. I looked at him, really looked. The guy who'd been there through every high and low, still here, still solid. Thanks, Ron. We sat there for a while. In our booth, not talking, just breathing the same stale beer air we'd always known. Only now it smelled different. Now it smelled like war. I knew I needed proof. Real, undeniable, burn it into their faces kind of proof. So I started watching. At first, casually, notebooks, timestamps, then obsessively. Father still kept a cabin upstate, off the grid, close to the river trails. He told Mom it was for solitude. Told me it was for fly fishing. I planted a small, motion-activated trail cam, 100 feet from the door, hidden in the brush, military-grade battery, night vision. Ron helped me install it. We told the ranger it was for wildlife tracking. I synced it to a private server. No cloud, no risk. Every movement, every visitor, pinged to my phone. 3 days passed, nothing. Then, Tuesday, 4:46 p.m., her car. I stared at the screen in my garage, heart pounding. Audrey stepped out, ponytail tight, shades on, hiking boots, looking casual, like she was going to yoga. She knocked once. He opened the door immediately. They hugged, too long, too familiar. He touched her lower back. She didn't flinch. She went inside. I waited. 90 minutes. Then they stepped out onto the deck. She laughed at something he said. He handed her a drink. She leaned into him. He kissed her. She kissed him back. Full mouth, hands on his chest. I slammed my laptop shut. Sat there in the dark, fists clenched, breathing like I'd run a mile. I watched it again an hour later. Paused it. Zoomed in. Her fingers in his hair. His hand on her waist. The same way she used to touch me. Then, I downloaded the footage. Labeled the file. They deserve this. Burned it onto a flash drive. Slipped it into a fireproof box. This wasn't about catching them anymore. This was about ending them. It took me 2 weeks to gather everything I needed. Legal filings. Custody requests. Emergency motions. I worked like a man possessed. I didn't see Audrey, not once, didn't speak to her, didn't answer her texts. I told her I was buried in work. Big case, tight deadline. She bought it. Of course she did. She was too busy with my dad. I stayed invisible, but Summer? I couldn't stay away from her. She was still in the hospital, still recovering. So I found a way, paid off a nurse. Quiet woman, maybe late 50s, stern eyes, no-nonsense attitude. $50 and one scared, broken father. That's all it took. She texted me whenever Audrey left the hospital, whenever it was safe. I'd come in through the staff entrance, sit with Summer for an hour or two, hold her hand, brush her hair back, read her the same damn dinosaur book she always wanted. "Where's Mommy?" she asked once, half asleep. "She's just out for a bit, honey. I'm here now." And I was, even if I felt like a ghost. I never said a word to anyone about what I was planning. Just worked, waited, watched. Because when it came time to strike, I wanted everything to be perfect. I insisted on being there in person. I wanted to see her face when the truth finally landed. No messages, no lawyers, no slow leaks, just impact. The court officer walked up to the house at 8:17 a.m., right on schedule. I stood a few steps back, hands in my pockets, face like stone. Audrey opened the door in a robe, coffee in hand. At first she smiled, that flirty, lazy smile she used to wear when she thought she had the upper hand. Then he handed her the envelope. Stiff, white, sealed with the weight of a war. She blinked, looked at the papers. What is this?" "You've been served," the officer said, clear and professional. And then the show began. "What are you talking about?" she snapped, eyes darting to me. "Luke, are you serious right now? Is this some joke?" I didn't answer, just stood there. Wait, what the hell is this? Custody? Divorce? She laughed. Short, forced, brittle. "Oh my God, you've lost your mind. This is insane. Her voice cracked in the last sentence. The panic started bleeding through the performance. "You think you can take her from me?" she hissed. "You think any judge is going to let you win that?" I stepped forward, calm, quiet. "I'm taking Summer, and I'm leaving you with nothing." She stared at me like I'd slapped her, mouth slightly open, breathing fast. Then the officer nodded and walked off. His job was done. Mine was just beginning. She stood in the doorway, clutching the papers like they were burning her fingers. Speechless now. Good. But I wasn't done. At the exact same hour, across town, my lawyer was sitting beside my mother in a notary's office, filing a civil claim against Brandon, my father. Marital fraud, hidden assets, betrayal of marital trust. We filed it all. Synchronized, clean, precise. A two-front war. And we were just getting started. While Audrey was busy flipping through the divorce papers, still trying to decide whether to scream or cry, the second strike was already landing. My attorney, Marla Reed, the kind of woman who could slice a man's ego in half with 3 words and a raised eyebrow, was sitting across town with my mother. They were in a private legal office. No press, no noise. Just paperwork, witnesses' signatures. Quiet vengeance. Together, they filed a civil suit against my father. 36 pages long. Grounds: marital fraud, breach of trust, infidelity, emotional cruelty. Request: restitution for misused assets, hidden funds, and 37 years of psychological erosion. Everything Mom had gathered. The hotel bills, the travel receipts, the private investigator's report from 2009 that she never had the courage to use. It all went into that file. I coordinated it all, timed it to the minute. By the time Father would find out what hit him, his bank would already be freezing shared accounts. It wasn't just a divorce anymore, it was a reckoning. He betrayed his wife, betrayed his son, and now he was going to learn what it feels like when the people you underestimated stop protecting you. We didn't raise our voices. We raised documents, affidavits, evidence. He showed up unannounced. No knock, no warning. I heard the front door swing open and his boots hit the floor like fire shots. Then I saw him, standing in the doorway of my kitchen, red in the face, chest heaving. "You smug little crap," he spat. "You think you can go around me?" I didn't answer, just stared at him. "You really think you can take me down in court?" he growled. "You forget who built this family? Who gave you everything?" I stepped forward, calm, controlled. "You gave me nothing but your name, and I'm about to strip that too." He lunged, fist first, caught me in the side of the jaw. Pain exploded, but I didn't fall. I hit back, harder, right across his mouth. We crashed into the kitchen table, chairs scattered. One snapped in half. He shoved me against the fridge. I drove my shoulder into his ribs. We hit the floor, fists flying, breath ragged, both of us grunting like animals. I pinned him first, one knee on his chest. He tried to swing again. I caught his arm, slammed it down. "Enough!" I barked, voice shaking with fury. "You hear me? You're done!" He glared up at me, blood on his lip, eyes full of hate. I leaned in closer. "You don't ever come near me again. And you sure as hell stay the hell away from Summer." He snorted, tried to laugh. "That's not your call." "It is now." I stood, looked down at him like the piece of filth he was. "I'm going to bury you in court, for Mom, for me. And you'll rot alone like you deserve." He sat up slowly, wiping blood from his chin. "This isn't over." I opened the door. "Get out of my house before I call the cops." He hesitated, then stood and limped out, not beaten in his mind, but broken in mind. This wasn't just revenge anymore. This was personal justice. Courtroom 2B, 9:05 a.m. The courtroom wasn't dramatic. No echo, no slamming gavels. Just a slightly too cold room with scuffed linoleum. Fluorescent lights that flickered near the back, and someone's old coffee leaking from a thermos on the bench behind me. Audrey sat across the aisle. White blouse, simple earrings, that polished, neutral look people wear to court when they're trying to look responsible. She looked calm, but I saw her hands under the table, wringing each other slowly, constantly. I didn't look at her for long, just kept sipping water from a plastic bottle, waiting for it to start. The judge entered, an older man, gray hair, slightly hunched. Didn't bother adjusting his robe as he sat. His voice was flat when he began. "Case Grant versus Grant. Issues of fraud, infidelity, and breach of marital trust." Marla, my attorney, stood. No big speech, just paperwork. She laid out the facts, the DNA results, the cabin footage, the text records between Audrey and my father. Audrey's lawyer tried to push back. "Out of context. Emotionally misleading." Possibly doctored. The judge didn't look impressed. Finally, he turned to her. Mrs. Grant, do you deny engaging in a romantic relationship with your father-in-law during the marriage? She blinked too long. It wasn't like that. I was confused. It was emotional at first. Answer the question. Yes. No one spoke for a while after that. When the judge read his ruling, he didn't raise his voice. Didn't even look up. Just read from the printout. Sole legal and physical custody of the child is granted to Mr. Grant. All jointly held property, including the primary residence, vehicle, and financial assets, are awarded to Mr. Grant. Additionally, the defendant is ordered to pay $150,000 in punitive damages for marital fraud. Audrey's mouth opened. You can't do this. She's my daughter too. The judge finally looked at her. No, she's not. That was it. She just sat there, still, and for once, completely quiet. Courtroom 2F, 1 p.m., different room, same building. Still smelled like bleach and cheap floor polish. Still too bright. My father was already there, sitting next to his lawyer in a fresh suit and polished shoes. He looked like a man headed to a job interview. I walked in without looking at him, took my seat, adjusted my collar. This case was mine. Intentional infliction of emotional distress, alienation of affection, destruction of familial structure. Marla presented our evidence, my mother's affidavit, notes from my therapist, photos, statements, screenshots. Father's lawyer objected half-heartedly. This is emotional venting, not legal injury. Marla calmly replied, this is what it looks like when a father deliberately undermines his own son's life. This isn't venting. This is a man recovering from betrayal with receipts. Father finally broke. He's just weak. She didn't want him anymore. I didn't take anything. He let her go. Even the judge paused at that, leaned forward, then sat back. After a short recess, the ruling came. $250,000 in damages, $100,000 punitive. No one applauded, no one gasped. This wasn't a movie. Brandon stared straight ahead. I got up and walked out. Didn't look back. He was no longer my father, and she had never really been my wife. We walked out the courthouse side by side, Mom and I. She had her purse over one shoulder, folder of court papers in her hand, but her spine was straighter than I'd seen it in years. Her face was calm. Tired, maybe, but calm. We'd won. No cheers, no parade. Just the feeling of weight finally peeling off the chest. And then I didn't even see her coming. Something cold and sticky splashed across my shirt. Brown, sweet, thick. I blinked. Chocolate. Audrey stood there in sunglasses and fake confidence, holding a half-empty cup of milkshake with whipped cream dripping down the side. Her jaw was clenched, hands shaking. You think this is over? She hissed. You think you can just take everything and walk away? I'll destroy you, Luke. You don't know who you're messing with. A few people on the sidewalk stopped. One woman stepped back, pulling her kid behind her. I looked down at my shirt, then at her, and I almost laughed. A court officer who had followed us out was already on his radio. 2 security guards came from the building. One grabbed her elbow. She jerked her arm away. Don't touch me. He deserves worse. They cuffed her anyway. Right there, next to the hot dog cart. She shouted something I didn't catch as they read her the charge. Disorderly conduct, violation of court order. Mom watched with her lips pursed. Not smug, not surprised. Just done. I stepped a little closer, wiped shake off my wrist with a napkin someone handed me. Hey, Audrey, I said flatly. She turned her head, breathing hard. You're gonna love prison. It's full of adrenaline. Her mouth opened. Nothing came out. They walked her to the cruiser. Crowd dispersed. And that was that. The final scene of her show. It was a few weeks later when Summer finally came home. The doctors cleared her. Her strength was coming back. She asked fewer questions now, but some still came. That evening, we sat on the living room floor. She was coloring. I was sorting out her new meds and folding a small blanket she liked to keep wrapped around her legs. Daddy, she said suddenly, not looking up. Why doesn't Mommy come anymore? I paused, looked at her hands. Steady now, not shaking like before. She was drawing a dinosaur in a tutu. I set the blanket down. She had to go away, I said gently. She did something very wrong, and she's not going to be around for a while. Summer thought about that. Didn't cry. just nodded. "Okay, Daddy," she said and hugged me. "I love you." The most important words in my world. I never saw Audrey again. Never heard from her. Turns out she didn't end up with my father either. They couldn't even stand each other once the mask came off. I don't care anymore. I live my own life.